This is Alex Vincent, Andy Barkley from Child's Play. We're going to be watching the first film here. This was 20 years ago when I was 6 years old.
I'm Katherine Hicks. I play Karen Barkley, the mom.
And I'm Kevin Yeager. I'm the Chucky doll builder, puppet master.
United Artists, which made the first film and none of the following films, which is why it's always been on its own DVD.
Hey, you got a pretty good credit on this, if I remember.
Yeah, I was excited. I got top billing.
First time, huh?
Chris said it was, he deferred because...
Chris Sarandon?
Yeah, he said I had to carry the picture, which I thought was touching. Brad Dourif, unbelievable actor, of course, from Cuckoo's Nest.
Strangest thing is I've never met Brad to this date. I have never actually physically shook his hand.
Yeah, we rehearsed a lot with him in Chicago.
And I just used to get the sound tapes, and we would work Chucky's actions off of his voice and what he did. But I did get to see and view some videotape of you guys rehearsing.
He would jump around. You
Yeah.
know, he just was Chucky all over the place, and it helped.
This is Chicago.
It was freezing
You
cold.
weren't out here at this time?
No,
It looks cold.
it was the coldest winter in like 40 years.
I came out to Chicago, which I think is where I met you. But for this next sequence, this is the toy store. We couldn't afford to build 50 Chucky dolls. So we came up with the idea to make the boxes and make the wardrobe. And we used real hair, real wardrobe. But then we ended up vacuum forming 50 Chuckies. So as you see there they are.
They're not real dolls.
No. The flesh, the tissue is all, that's a real doll.
Didn't you have to stay in a hotel room and pack all these boxes?
Yeah, we ended up putting them all together in a hotel room. That was kind of fun.
See, there's my top billing.
Uh-huh. Very good, honey. We're married, by the way.
Watching this first scene of this movie always kind of reminds me of the first time I saw it in the theater. When it came out, my grandfather had rented out one of the theaters in my town, 700 seats, and we had our own kind of premiere for it. And I was in a tuxedo in the front row, and we watched this movie together. I remember when my name comes up, they all started cheering, and when it was over, I waited outside the theater for about 2 hours, and people were just coming out. I was signing autographs for them. There was a big crowd around me, hanging out, and then we went out to dinner.
Yeah, so we ended up building 5 hero rag dolls, we called them, and those were the dolls that just got carried around by Alex Vincent, who played Andy, and tossed around. They were used for stunts and different things. And you'll see one of them coming up here with Brad in a moment. And the rest on the shelves were all these vacuum forms. They were lightweight. They were really cheap to make. We also ended up looking at a lot of pictures of Brad because in this movie, Chucky goes from a real-looking doll with blue eyes into a human throughout the film. So we sort of studied Brad's eye color and we tried to mimic his hairline. So as Chucky became more human, his hair would recede and his eyes would become more ice blue. And Brad had these really great eyes that are really kind of just by nature cold and kind of evil looking. So we backed those up and made the doll's eyes kind of big and blue and more friendly looking. And then as he became human, they became Brad Dourif ice cold.
Ashley, my sister, was Chucky at the very first time that you see Chucky in motion in the movie. So when he runs across the hallway in the upcoming scene. She was 3. I think she was just the right height. She was just the right height to do it. They had Ed Gale, who was the little person that was Chucky in some of the scenes where the whole doll's body was shown in motion. And I think they tried making an oversized set, and I don't know if they used that or not, but something wasn't right, and it wasn't the right height. So they put a wig on her and put her in Chucky's clothes, and she ran across the hall. And she could always say now she was the first Chucky.
Brad's such a good actor. He's just such an instrument. There's no hesitation. He's not blocked in any way. He's just
And it's hard to pull off that.
so vulnerable.
Hard to pull off that voodoo stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think his eyes are vulnerable blue,
Really?
which is why I think Chucky looks sometimes nice and vulnerable.
They're scary. I just sort of read brown as warm, and his eyes were just sort of he can just make them glare, and really worked well for Chucky. We made sure that none of the dolls in that sequence got blown up. None of the real ones. And I know in the original script, Don's script his original script was really dark, and the beginning took place. It was a different beginning where the soul of Charles E. Ray was in a guy in prison, convict in prison, was about ready to be executed on the electric chair. And his soul at 12 o'clock midnight or whatever would transfer it into the Chucky doll. And when Tom Holland came on board, he rewrote the whole voodoo thing into it and changed that premise. And also, I think anyway.
Where was the Chucky doll at the prison when he was executed? Outside?
He was next door being made.
In a factory?
Yeah, in a toy factory.
Alex and I met for the first read-through, and I was not a real mother at the time, so I wasn't really used to being with children, and people were nervous at the first read-through that we weren't really clicking. So they immediately made Brad do acting games with us. Touchy-feely, like
so you're
acting
saying,
exercises. And then slowly it dawned on me we should hang out and become friends, so that this scene, when he wakes me up, it has to be mom and son who love each other. And so in Chicago we hung out. We became really good friends. And so by the time we began shooting this, I felt very comfortable because I loved him. And, we had affection and friendship.
And here we go, everybody's favorite breakfast scene. My whole life I've been asked questions about this scene, and everyone thought it was just the most adorable scene ever. And I think they just told me to be as excessive as possible with everything there. Keep filling it up, keep pouring more sugar in, get as much butter on that thing as possible. I think I had a lot of fun doing that.
This is funny. We had built all the doll parts, and this was one of the talking toy dolls that we built, and the skin is made of urethane and stuff. Now we use silicone a little bit better, but it was sort of a stiff material. But we were able to pull that off, and then David Kirshner came to me and said, hey, we need to do a commercial for the movie where the little doll is talking while a oversized doll is standing next to him. So I had to quickly hire a costumer who built walk-around costumes for amusement parks and things, and she came on board and put together that big-headed Chucky.
And Tom Holland, the director, is the voice on the commercial.
That's right.
I don't know, who would think that was going to be good? I think Andy was a pretty gullible kid. Okay, and here comes the cheesiest smile of the whole movie. I never smile in the whole 2 films. That's the only smile. And a couple in bed here.
Alex is cute.
He's so cute.
Was he 6 at this time? Was he 6 years old?
We would rehearse this scene during the weeks. Yeah.
This is how hard you are to get up in the morning now.
Yeah.
I bunch up and down like this. You're late for work.
Wake up! 30, it's almost 6:30 in the morning.
It's hard to play a mom if you're not a real mom. I can tell when actresses are playing moms and that they're not real moms now, now that I'm a real mom.
How long you been up for dinner?
You're believable here.
Yeah, because we're friends. But you can't do these scenes and just, meet and then shoot the next day. It would be horrible.
It's just excellent.
You've always liked that haircut, too.
Yeah. The helmet.
The helmet haircut. I thought it was cute.
I gotta give you your super duper birthday Tommy gun.
I think she really enjoyed doing this, and I think I really hated doing this scene.
That's 1. How many years old are you today? 2. Oh, happy birthday, pumpkin.
Thanks. Can we open my present?
I know that I was 6 years old when we made this, and I always guess that. I guess this was Andy's 6th birthday, but I don't think it ever says that. So I guess I was just turning 6 there.
Did they audition any other kids besides?
I don't
Did you
know.
meet anybody else besides Alex?
No.
Oh.
Getting the role of Andy for me was really just luck, I guess, and timing. I had been auditioning for everything from when I was 5 to when I was 13 in New York City 3 or 4 times a week. I remember getting this character in the script and the idea of it, and my mother was concerned that it wouldn't be something right for me anyway. She didn't want me to die in the movie, that was for sure. But I got to go and audition in New York for it, and I got a second call back in New York. And then I finally got flown out to California to go up against 1 or maybe 2 other kids for the role. And there was this one scene that actually kind of contributed to me getting that role, I think. It's coming up in a little bit after Aunt Maggie plummets to her death out the window. When I say Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved, I was really, really uncomfortable about saying that. When I was in California, my mother was actually in the room with me for the audition, which I remember being odd and uncomfortable for me because that wasn't usually the case. And I was there. I don't know who was in the room, maybe David Kirshner, Laura Moskowitz, Tom Holland, I'm not sure who. But I remember I had to say that line, and when it came up to it, I got really uncomfortable. I froze up. I didn't want to say it. And I pretended that I didn't know the line anymore. I didn't know what it was I was supposed to say. So they said, okay, well, let's try it again. We'll start from the beginning. Here are the lines. Let's do it. And it got up to that part. Aunt Maggie's a real bitch and got what she deserved. I didn't want to say it. I froze up. And I actually ran out of the room and went into this bathroom, and I started crying. And my mother came and was like, what's wrong? What's the matter? You know, what's the problem here? I know you know the lines. And I said, I don't want to say that in front of you. I can't say that in front of you. So she went back and she told them, no, he does know the material. He just isn't comfortable saying bitch in front of me. So I think we went back and I changed it for the sake of the fact that she was in the room with me. But I think they were so convinced that I really had forgotten the material and didn't know what I was doing. So the fact that I fooled them into thinking that, when really I just didn't want to say the word, I guess they figured, hey, this kid could act. He fooled us. Let's give him the job.
That last scene, I think was the first time I met you.
Yeah, that's right. You handed me the doll.
Yeah, I did. I came on the set and it was all wrapped up from. It was so cold. It was
the coldest winter in 100 years.
60 below or something,
yeah.
wind chill factor. And I just came to the set, and I would think my eyes were the only thing that was showing. And I walked up and said, Miss Hicks, here's your killer doll.
The funny thing is, when we were in Chicago, which is here, this is across from the Palmer House downtown, a real department store. And we did this, we rehearsed, in the hotel convention hall with tape on the floor with Brad and me and Chris, and it was all this emotional stuff. And I really was in denial about the doll. I thought, I do not want to have to deal with this doll. It's just going to make it a horror film. But when we go back to L.A., we're going to have to start dealing with the doll. But then it got...
The real star of the film.
Yeah. But once I saw the 12 puppeteers and you leading them and the incredible, elaborate, technical know-how that goes into it, it was really impressive.
There's why, thank you, honey. There was 3 puppeteers just for the face. One person did the eyes, another person did the mouth, and then facial expressions, the brows and the cheeks were done by a third person. Then there was a puppeteer that just handled the head and body, and then 2 separate people, a left and right arm, and then one guy in the hands. Now that's not for this doll here. This is the toy version. That was a 2-man job. But
did you talk about Brock with the mouthpiece on?
Yeah, Brock Winkless. He did all the lip sync.
They wear this head mechanism where when he talks, the servos sink in with Chucky's
Yeah,
mouth.
it's like a football helmet
Yeah.
chin strap that's hooked onto a little potentiometer on the side of the head, much like these headphones we're wearing. And as he moved his jaw, it would move that potentiometer, and then that would translate to Chucky's servo, and it would move his jaw up and down. And then he had to work the lips with 4 joysticks with his fingers.
To go forward.
To have him push out and,
Articulation.
Yeah.
And brows and every expression.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Which you'll see a little later. But these were the toy version dolls here that just were simple. And at the time there was a toy out called Teddy Ruxpin, and it was a talking little teddy bear, and he worked off a videotape, and he was voice activated, so if you spoke to him, he would speak back to you, and he would ask you questions or tell a story or something. And then there was a doll that just hit the market just before we started Child's Play called Corky, and he was also a talking little boy, and he had curly red hair, looked a little bit like Chucky did, and we actually kind of used him as a prototype, sort of studied him, because they had gone through, the toy company had gone through all that, work, just getting this, running, tests with kids and seeing what was likable and whatever. So we were able to say, hey, look, he had brown eyes and he did have freckles, and we wanted to kind of capture some of those things in Chucky, so we did look off of him. This is a funny scene here.
Dinah,
she was carrying him so many times back and forth. I think we did this 5 or 6 times. But she
see
turns
the dangling
corner
arm?
here.
That always bothers Kevin.
Well, it ripped off.
Oh, yeah, it looks terrible.
Thanks. She kept carrying it back and forth, and then we did that shot, and then we had to come inside the bedroom and continue the scene. And by the time it got around to that, the arm had ripped off. Things that happen. We rehearsed for about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks before we actually came to set.
And the floor on the set was like had a big space beneath the floorboards with like openings, right? It was like a train track where
we had to raise this. This was something that we found out in a rehearsal, that we just couldn't get low enough on the floor, so we ended up
to have the camera not see.
Yeah, the camera for the puppeteers to be all hidden below there, so the guy that would, otherwise it would be near impossible to walk him around. You'll see a scene later on where he has to walk across or run across the floor. So we built it was just easy to build the entire stages up 4 feet and hide our monitors and all our puppeteers underneath there. Wow. So this entire stage, this entire apartment was built 4 feet off the ground.
Did you guys all squinch? Don't you need more footage under?
We were on little apple boxes sitting down below. And I actually didn't puppeteer anything myself. Just coordinating. Whenever I do stuff like this, you have to have somebody kind of overlooking the whole character, being the third eye, sort of.
You were on the monitor. You were next to the director all the time.
Sitting next to Tom or nearby, and on the walkie-talkies talking to the puppeteers down below.
There were many, many scenes that we shot about the backstory of my husband who died and the boy's father. And it was a tragic accident. And there was just a real meaty role. Even though I knew it was a bit of a horror film, you can't resist a juicy role. But I had just come off Star Trek IV, directed by Leonard Nimoy. And I don't know, you're just sort of in the loop, and I had to audition several times. In fact, Chris Sarandon came to my apartment. We rehearsed together, and I think I remember calling Leonard Nimoy and saying, put a good word in for me. And anyway, I got it.
I got a call from David Kirshner, actually. He had talked to a makeup effects artist named Rick Baker, Academy Award winner for many films, including American Werewolf in London, and I had worked with Rick a couple of times, and he had called up Rick, I think, gone around town just to kind of check out who was who, and Rick was busy. He actually called Rick to do the job, and Rick was busy, so he recommended me. And he reminds me to this day that because of that, he made my career, and I'm married to Katherine because of his introduction to me to Child's Play. But anyway, so David came over to the shop and looked at some of the work I'd done. I'd done Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and I had this mechanical Freddy head. That was the only thing, animatronic or mechanical that I had in the shop, and I turned it on and worked the servos and stuff like that for him. And after a couple of meetings, I got the job. He gave me the call, and I got the job. And that's how I first got on board.
So yeah, this coming scene here is the scene that I was talking about. My sister Ashley, she's 3 years old, and she happened to be the right height for this. And it's the first time that you see Chucky moving right there, and that was my sister Ashley. So she can always claim that she was Chucky before anyone else.
I remember we had lots of parts. We probably had, as I said, we mentioned I had the 5 stunt dolls, and then we had 2 toy versions that had their eyes blinking. Then we had several parts. We had screaming heads that were angry. We had neutral heads, different types of heads for different reasons. A burn Chucky, all this kind of stuff. But there were still certain situations where the whole movie was storyboarded, but we still had to come up with things last minute. And one of the things was using, little Ashley to run by in that sequence.
Which is this little boy's little sister.
This is Alex Vincent, who plays Andy, his little sister Ashley.
Did she come on yet?
I think she's been on, yeah.
Oh, she runs in the background.
Yeah, she runs around and she's
and then
sitting.
later on, you also use little people.
Ed Gale doubled as Chucky, and we had to build a 30% larger Chucky costume and head. And that had mechanical eyes in it, and also a set.
A giant set, so that he'd look like the little person would look like a little doll.
Yeah. Did you ever go in and sit in a set? Did you?
Just once, I think.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're a little kid again. To sit in a 30% larger sofa. So, so we used her at times for kicking and different things, and Ed came in handy a lot. Well, I'll point out shots that were Ed Gale, but he helped out a lot.
Yeah, I guess being the age that I was, I really didn't know too much of what was going on outside of my scenes. I worked with my acting coach a lot, and I did tutoring a lot, and I was taken to and from the set to pretty much do what I've been practicing with my acting coach. And that was about it. I mean, I think I had a general awareness of where the rest of the movie was going. I read the script like 10 times by myself, and pretty much taught myself how to read with that script. So much so to the point where I knew everyone's lines perfectly, and if they ad-libbed or changed it in any little way during filming, I would be like, cut, stop, that's not how it was said. And they had to explain to me, no, he could say it his way.
Karen? Yeah. Who else would it be? Is something wrong? No.
Dinah Manoff, my Aunt Maggie. I have some memories of working with her. I don't remember too much off the set with her, but I remember the scenes I had with her pretty well. She was really sweet.
Now, would you stop worrying and give Criswell a kick in the pants for me, huh?
I used to watch her on that show, Empty Nest.
Got it. Hey, listen, Ed, thank you for everything. You're a real pal. Oh, yeah? Yeah, give Andy a kiss for me, will you?
There was actually supposed to be a mouse or a rat in this scene, I remember. I remember that because they had the mice there. I remember playing with a couple of the mice that they were supposed to use for this scene.
Didn't you acquire some mice from this scene?
Yeah, the mice never made it in the final cut.
This shot coming up here, there's
a mouse behind there.
There's supposed to be a mouse behind that.
And then I heard at the end of the day that they were going to take it for snake food, so I took them in my trailer and kept them as pets.
How many did you take home?
Like 9.
Is that normal for actors to do that?
Then I gave them to a local school.
So their mouse was supposed to be here.
I don't know why I don't know why they cut him.
He was shy.
Here it goes. Oh, God.
That's still frightening, isn't it?
But I remember that it was the coldest winter I think Chicago had in so many years when we were there. It was freezing. It was like the middle of the night. We were waiting for that to happen. And the setup was forever, and it just took so long. And we were so cold. I remember my eyes like watering and freezing to my face.
Who are you waving to?
I just put that bit in to establish that she takes the same bus and has friends on it.
Okay. What kind of backstory did you develop for this character?
A thick one.
Did you?
Yeah, I stay in my hotel room every night making up her whole background.
What happened to Andy's father? Is that ever spoken about?
I forget. He died.
There was a scene that was cut out. It was a scene between me and Katherine talking about how, my father had died. He died a year ago or 2 years before this. And that was a big part of why Andy was so vulnerable and could fall for what this doll told him and do anything the doll told him, because Chucky used that information to his advantage and told me that he was sent down from my father. He's there to help me and to watch me, and he was sent from heaven by my dad to play with me. And we had a real, touching scene, I think, where I was crying and upset about missing my father, and I don't think we ever even filmed it, or if we did, they cut it out and I never saw it. But I think that further explains how vulnerable Andy was and able to be taken advantage of by this doll.
This was the first time I became aware of audience participation. They'd screen the movie and people would press buttons, and then they would
to score the
they would
movie.
recut it according to test screenings, which is a
common
little
now.
scary.
Very common now, but back then you're saying it wasn't happening as much.
No. I was like, you mean you shape the film over and over again?
How much time was it between this scene in here and then you running in Chicago? Do you know if it was a month or
the
two later?
exteriors were, like a month, 2 months.
How do you get back into knowing what you did? Is that just something that Tom...
That's the challenge of film acting. You just have to
yeah.
remember where you were and prep, and you have to do an emotional prep to be at this. If you were running into the building, you have to jump up and down. So when you're coming into the room 2 months later on a Hollywood soundstage, you have to be out of breath and probably shivering.
These are hard lines to... The whole thing, I think, for actors would be difficult to pull this off because the whole idea of a concept, obviously.
Yeah.
Dolls don't come to life, or do they?
Yeah. Well, you just attach, you're fighting for your child and your friend, Chris was really good. Sarandon is...
What are you implying?
We love him from... Well, Fright Night is where he met Tom Holland, but also Princess Bride. I love his character. He's a good New York stage actor as well.
It's a good moment for you. I like this.
Andy, I want you to go to bed. The detective and I are very busy.
But Mom...
Right now, please.
Man, that doll was almost my height. And he was heavy, too. Chucky was heavy.
Good guy, Pete.
Look at the size of Chucky's head or compared to Andy. I never liked that because I didn't really meet him until we got to set, or a couple of days before we actually started shooting. But that was necessary only to keep...
Were all the Chuckies
25.
that big?
Yeah, because we had to basically decide how much room we needed to make the facial expressions move. And there are 25 little servo motors, and servo motors are those things that you can find now in hobby, cars and planes and things like that move rudders and steering wheels and stuff. And so we had to figure out the smallest motors that we could use and how many we needed, and it ended up being around 25 motors. And so that we had to put that all together and figure we needed at least that much space, which made the head the size of a human's head, an adult human's head. So didn't like that, but that was just what we had to do. Now the servo motors are much smaller and things can be done. We just did a head about half the size of that on Lemony Snicket a couple of years back, but that's why his head ended up being so large. And we ended up, again, doing the, April Ferry did all the costumes and things, but we did the shoes as well, so we had to make 30% larger shoes for Ed Gale, who doubled for Chucky and also for Andy on the bottom of his little pajamas, which is what he notices here, that he notices the little footprints of these little tiny things. And that was designed by the production design team that designed the pattern of the costumes in the bottom of the shoes, and we just built the actual pieces.
Chucky.
I love the way he says Chucky.
Yeah.
Chucky.
Chucky.
But Mom...
I love that look she gives me. I'm familiar with that look.
When you think of it, it is that all these adults acting these scenes about a doll that kills.
There hadn't been a whole lot of... there was little things. Karen Black did a series, Trilogy of Terror series, and then one of the episodes in the 3-part piece was about a woman who goes to Africa or Tahiti or something and brings back this little doll as a gift, I think, for her mother or something, or her mother sends it to her anyway. And it's a little kind of voodoo-looking doll, and there's a little note on it that says, "Don't knock off the magical necklace, or the thing will come to life." And of course it does, and chases around her house and stuff. And we referred to that a lot when making this film, just the terror that brought to the audience. Having it hide underneath the bed. At one point, it's thrown into the oven, and she kind of semi-cooks it and stuff. And just something about something small running underneath the couch, hiding with a normal sized knife and kind of trying to slash your ankles, and cut your feet and things like that. And then the other thing that was done was a Twilight Zone episode with Telly Savalas called Talking Tina. And that was also something that we referred to a lot, because of the way that Talking Tina would say, I'm going to kill you, and things. Just very simply with a sweet voice, And there's something about that, with a toy talking to Andy, he's whispering to him and things.
Is it because toys are like trusted children's objects?
Yeah, I think so. Clowns have the same effect, I think. Toys and clowns, some dolls can look very realistic, in their eyes if they're put together well, can creep you out, just because they look real or you imagine that they could come to life. I think that's something that anybody who's had a doll. You had dolls, didn't you ever think that they were alive? No? They didn't talk to you at night?
Oh, yeah. I made them
Like
talk
mine
to me.
did.
Said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
Whoa, what did that little kid say? That was the line I was completely uncomfortable saying.
Say it, Chucky did.
But I know kids have been traumatized.
Yeah.
My own Seventh Heaven child, David Gallagher, wouldn't come over to our house because he thought Chucky would be around.
Oh, because of this movie?
Yeah, he saw it too young. A babysitter locked him and a friend in, and it just traumatized him.
So it's good that this film is influencing generations of the future. Scaring
We
the
saw
kids.
Magic with Anthony Hopkins. That was
Recently.
the puppet. Yeah, that.
Remember how big Fat's head was? Fats is the ventriloquist doll in that. He has a huge head, bigger than Anthony Hopkins.
Because the servos were larger in those days, even.
Though he had like a lever or something. It was a simple doll.
I'm sorry.
But there's just something creepy when he whispers in Andy's ear. Those are conversations we're not privy to. We don't hear what he's saying, but he's just whispering him. And when he ends up telling us through Andy mentions, Chucky says this, and Chucky says there's something really creepy about that, that the doll is secretly talking to.
Chucky's a good actor. He plays dead so well. He's just like...
Yeah, we work on that.
This kid does have a serious dinosaur obsession. They could have made Chucky a dinosaur that comes to life.
The monster, look how big he is.
Let me stay here and listen to my crazy kid talk to his doll. I gotta grow that bowl haircut out again. I think that worked well for me.
You're right, Chucky.
Someone's gotta bring it back.
She didn't.
I've always had longer kind of hair. I should just go right for that.
Oh, my God.
It's just subtle stuff like that. Is that very Talking Tina kind of...
See, Chucky's acting for my sake.
And the idea was that the doll had a voice-activation device inside of him. So when you spoke to him, he spoke back, which is why. But then he would do certain things like turning the head, looking at the doorway and stuff.
This scene always reminds me of something that was actually really special between me and Katherine. When she got this role, I don't think she had ever played a mom before in a movie. She wasn't a mom. I was like her introduction in life to being a mother. And she wasn't sure exactly how to get along with me, how to make it convincing on set and in the film, because she didn't have any experience being a mother. So we tried to spend some time together and develop a closer relationship with each other. And one of the things that happened, I'm not sure where she got this or who gave it to her, but she gave me this little, kind of like a transparent pearl stone thing that she found, or that someone gave to her. And she gave it to me, and she said that this was my magic stone, and I can hold on to it, and it'll bring me good luck, or it was something that would make me think of her. I still have that, and I always think about that when I think about Katherine.
Now, where was this at? This was back in Chicago?
Yeah, freezing cold.
Andy's used to it Alex, because he was... Where's he from originally?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, so he's used to this weather.
You'd think someone would go up to Andy and say, "Hey, kid, where's your mom? What are you doing here? Look around you. I don't feel safe here. What are you doing here?" All I know is if I were sitting on a subway and I saw some little kid sitting there by himself with a doll whispering into the doll's ear, I might be a little creeped out.
Back in Chicago, people could just ride the L train anywhere, really, no matter what age. As long as he had his pass with him. But he's not alone. He's got the doll.
Yeah.
Keep him company. I had gone to Chicago to set up the initial toy store sequence with all the vacuforms, and then came back to do this Eddie Caputo sequence at Eddie Caputo's house, where they actually blow the house up.
And I had just flown into town, and they took me right to this set. I don't know why. I had nothing to shoot, just, I think, to meet Tom. So I remember sitting in a trailer right in this neighborhood.
Oh, maybe we shot this beforehand? Yeah, it's true. Maybe, and then we did the exterior
Oh, really?
store that you worked at, exterior, after this, I think.
Oh, this was everyone's favorite line. Probably my least favorite line.
You stay here. I have to go tinkle.
I've been hearing that my whole life. Are you ready to do the interview, or would you like to go tinkle first? If we're on the topic, I'm likely going to hear that, yeah.
Right there, Chucky.
I love those kind of shots.
That's steady cam.
Yeah.
Still, when people weren't using them that much. And this was the first puppeteering. I actually did do a little puppeteering. I take that back on this, in this sequence. And this is my hand puppeteering job. Let's see if it holds up. Oh, yes. Yes, it's good. I was sitting outside, and the L train would go by about every 5 minutes or less. And it was cold out there. And the metal for the hand was aluminum, and it would get to below freezing temperatures, and I had no gloves, and so I had to hold onto this aluminum. And then on cue, I could barely hear Tom Holland call out action, and that was the camera would find the door, and I'd push the door open, and then I'd reach around and grab the side of the door. And then Lawrence Soman, one of the puppeteers, did all this stuff here. He was also on the inside of the kitchen.
That's just a rod puppet, right?
That's a
Rod
single
hand.
rod hand, but it has cable fingers on it. And we had foam latex skins at the time. We used silicone. Now it's much better, but so it kind of was thin, and it would sort of poke through. You could see the mechanics popping through.
Yeah, I don't really remember too much about filming this. I remember the explosion. I remember back watching it. I remember it being cold and walking around, like, all bundled up in that crazy snowsuit I had on.
I believe this was the actual house, from the inside as well. It was an abandoned house. They had to find a house that was away from everything else.
It was the South Side, I remember, because
Yeah.
my mom grew up on the South Side.
Oh, she did. In fact, I think this was your mother's house growing up, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm like just waddling around, looking for my doll. Who hears a gunshot and runs towards it?
You know, he wasn't a slick Hollywood kid. That's what's sort of cute about him. He had never
Alex.
acted before, Alex. He was just a New York, East Coast boy.
Chucky. Chucky.
Brad's great laugh. I think that really sold the whole character of Chucky, is that laugh. It's both evil and entertaining at the same time. So the way that Andy survives this explosion, right there, if you see right there at the front of the screen, there was a ditch that Andy just fell into. And we actually shot it where I did fall into that ditch. And then after this explosion, I came climbing out of it, walking around still looking for the doll. But they cut that out, I guess, so it made it a little unclear of whether or not I was alive for this scene.
I was standing right there. It was a huge explosion. A lot of brick, It was obviously a one-take deal. And it was hugely, I was there and watched it all blow up. The concussion was so enormous, I guess people from all over the neighborhood complained.
That things were broken in their house.
And UA got a lot of phone calls about potential problems, chandeliers and glass breaking and stuff like that. I don't think any of it was true, but people were trying to make claims because they heard it from miles away and they could feel it.
I feel like it's so difficult for Andy to talk, for him to get the words out. I guess all kids talk like that.
This is where one of those scenes was where I tell Chris all the backstory, and
This is a scene that was cut?
yeah, and I'm worried about Karen actually is concerned that he's lost his mind because of the death of his dad. There was all this other backstory.
I remember going over this scene and trying to get it right with my acting coach and working with Katherine on it and trying to express how frustrated I was getting with the doll, where I punch him in the stomach as hard as I can. And this is the first time where Andy really starts to change his mind about Chucky. Up until now, he was still doing everything that he said, thought that he was good. And now when he's faced with the possibility of being taken away from his mother, he realizes this doll is not worth this in my life, and he's trying to screw me over. And, you know, I look for him to help and bail me out here so I don't look crazy, but he doesn't want to help me at all. And so he instantly becomes my enemy right here.
I still get every time I see that, I chuckle. I don't know why. I just love when he punches him right in the chest.
Mrs. Barkley, my name is Dr. Ardmore. I'm from County General. I've seen more than enough. Maybe Andy should spend a couple of days with us.
So that's it. Now I'm locked away, and she has to go back and deal with this doll. She's still carrying the doll everywhere. I think you just dump the doll at this point. Tell the kid, look, you obviously can't handle this doll. He's a little too much for you, and I think you got to cry about it for a couple days, but we're getting rid of the doll. Everyone thinks you're crazy. You're locked up in an insane asylum. Why are we still keeping this doll?
And so I remember, I think after I saw the dailies for this, I think I came to you. I was trying to find reasons to talk to you, actually, because, you know, puppeteers don't
Well, when
mingle.
Chucky attacked me, you thanked me for help making the doll look good, because there was some problems, but I kept resisting what was not a force.
Right.
I pretended like it was a force for 1 second. I think the doll locked. Whoever was operating wasn't pushing hard enough. So I've
since fired him. But also, just you're by yourself and alone in a room, you know, acting by yourself, talking to a doll, and it's hard to pull off.
I pretended he was a snake, because I don't like snakes.
I don't like dolls. When this came up, we had to build a compartment out the back. When Karen discovers that Chucky's batteries aren't in his back, you know, Tom wanted a shot where we can flip him around and actually see that the compartment was empty. And I remember not having a whole lot of time to come up with this little compartment. We had to fit it in the back of the. Again, this is one of the toy version. You know, it had some mechanics. Most of them were inside the head. The head spun left to right. There was a rod down in a form in the middle of the body, but most of the motors were inside the head, and that's what spun it around and moved the mouth and blinked the eyes. So I had limited room in the back, but I had to go. I think I ended up cannibalizing a toy and pulling out the compartment for this shot here. But I think it was a different color, white or something. I think I can see a chip of white there. I think I had to paint it flesh tone.
Chucky, wanna play?
We actually tilted the set to get him to roll underneath the couch
really?
like that. Yeah, it was an insert. And we had to build a portion of the living room floor, family room floor, and we had to tilt the whole thing at about a 45 degrees or something like that, 30 degrees or something like that, to get it to bounce and then roll underneath. I think this is really classic horror type of stuff. Peeking underneath, very primal kind of childlike, fear.
Yeah.
Peeking underneath a couch or in a bed is always a really scary thing. You don't know what you're going to see. In this sequence, we use several dolls. That's a dummy. Then we use the toy version earlier. And then we'll switch into this is the first time you'll see the full animatronic doll.
The first time it's animated.
Yeah, you see it.
I said talk to me, damn it! All right. Then I'm gonna make you talk.
Some coordination there. What do they have underneath there? Some kind of...
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid.
This is a nice struggle here.
I love how Chucky looks there. His little brow goes up, his little
Yeah.
nose up.
Yeah, when they set him on fire, I wouldn't be there on set to watch it. Because it scared me, I guess. I didn't want to see him on fire. Because I liked him a lot. I finally did get to see the movie at the premiere. It was so much fun for me because I hadn't seen any of this stuff. And especially a lot of the scenes where Chucky comes to life. Even though I had reactions in those scenes, a lot of it was cutaway reactions to me because they tried to limit how much of that I saw. I think for a fear of traumatizing me. So I really got to see a lot of it for the first time. And also, I think with the hours that I was able to put it into work, I spent a lot of time at tutoring when I was there and resting and stuff. So I didn't really see too many scenes that I wasn't in. Very few. Only if it was something really cool, like the stunt guy falling out of the window or the building blowing up.
Yeah, we used the mechanical Chucky, but in that case, again, Tom wanted to, the thing is, the unfortunate part about working with animatronics is sometimes you're limited to parts. You can only shoot from the waist up, and in that situation, when he comes to life, there's a puppeteer just below, if you remember, holding on to the body of Chucky while people are working the arms and the hands and the face and the head. And Tom wanted to have a shot of the full body. We couldn't necessarily get that. We did make a flailing Chucky that actually could be, and it is used in certain sequences. But in this one, it wasn't. It was too mechanical looking, and Tom wanted more floppy movement with kicks and things like that. So again, we employed little Ashley, Alex's
really?
younger sister, and we put her in a costume, and I think it was your stunt double or your stand-in. It was used to thrash around. It was probably one of those late-night insert shots. And you would go home, and we went ahead and shot it with little Ashley kicking at you, so you could feel that you were seeing the whole body, even though you were only seeing pieces.
It's more effective, the idea that Chucky wants to get out of the doll. He needs something to be angry about. I think now you have a villain who's content and happy with his family, and that's not a villain.
How did you get them?
Chucky bit me.
Try saying that line.
Well, it's good because I think it works, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Because you're trying to convince people of a ridiculous situation.
That isn't a good part of town to be in.
See, it's so cold you can hardly form the words.
You don't want to go down there at this time.
These were all more scenes filmed in Chicago. All the outside scenes in this first film were in Chicago. In one of the coldest winters ever. And I remember being so cold, and I couldn't wait to get back to the trailer. Any of these outside scenes that I was in, which luckily weren't that many. But I had a much better time in California. And I think we filmed all the Chicago scenes first. And then we went out to California.
My mom at the time, who's from Chicago, and she came to visit me on set, she said, you've got to wear a hat. It's ridiculous. Any Chicago girl would wear mittens and a wool hat, and I didn't want to.
Did you? Oh, it was your choice?
I didn't want to wear a hat the whole
Because
film.
you mess up your hair.
Yeah. Oh, it'd just be weird.
We had that hair helmet, that you had on that kept your ears warm. I always thought it was strange that I guess you must be a really driven mother to be out in the cold like this, in the worst part of town, all by yourself.
Who's taking? Oh, Andy's in jail.
Yeah. Would you ever do this if our daughter was in trouble? Is that real blush on your cheeks? Is that real cold?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was a first-time director or first time in a horror movie, I'm not sure. But John LaFia was a little more laid back. He took a different approach to it. Tom Holland was a little more harsh in knowing what he wanted and demanding it. And Not so much with me. I got along good with him, but people knew he got the job done and he was good, and they expected it, I guess, and were able to get me off set pretty quick when he would get frustrated.
You're welcome to whatever I have.
Not enough. What else you got?
That's all I've got.
All you got?
What? Yes.
All you got?
Wait a minute.
Oh, you got a lot.
No. No. Oh, no. No, wait.
Ooh.
Hey. Oh, Christ, he's a cop. All right, what about the rest of you? You want to party too?
Remember, I think that insert, I was there when they shot that insert knee. I think it was the executive producer was involved. He was either the one striking or receiving the insert of that knee to the groin.
The interesting thing is Chris Sarandon and Brad Dourif were both nominated for an Oscar the same year for Cuckoo's Nest and Dog Day Afternoon. Neither of them won. And they're both from West Virginia.
Now it all starts to make sense. Maybe someone is telling the truth. Maybe I'm not crazy.
God damn it. My son's life is at stake. Now, what was it?
Place where he said he got the doll. Charles Lee Ray died there.
Who?
The Lakeshore Strangler, the man who's partners with Eddie Caputo. Whoa, hey, where you going?
I know that name, Charles A. Ray, they got that from Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the guy that shot Martin Luther King.
Oh.
Ray,
Something.
his last name is Ray, and they put those three names together for Charles A. Ray.
Why didn't you tell me?
It's not exactly the kind of thing you tell someone. Come on, let me take you home. Give me some sleep.
Did he say anything? Anything at all?
Oh.
Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah, he threatened to kill me and Eddie Caputo.
Those are great buildings, aren't they?
Yeah.
Again, what part of town is in Chicago is this?
It's near the Loop.
Okay. And this was set done back in Los Angeles. I remember watching you shooting this. No, maybe not this shot. But
No, this was in Chicago.
Right. That's right. This was Chicago, but there's a side angle. I think they did all the side angle coverage back in L.A. This stuff, I think, was done back in Los Angeles.
Just tell me where he lived. Don't you understand any place to
There was a translite, and they do pickup shots for this scene. I remember watching. I would go down to set and try to watch some normal actors. Got tired of dealing with the puppet all the time.
No, you can't do that. Oh, don't you see? You just
We do get sort of trapped in in our little world. We go back in our room and we prep for the next shot. And
Yeah, I remember you had a room way at the back of the soundstage.
Yeah. And we'd rehearse back there. We'd prep for the next day's work. And you really kind of feel a little isolated from the rest of the crew. You guys are off making a movie with real actors and,
and you're
and props, and we're stuck in the puppet room. But
I remember you snuck off one day to do Weird Al Yankovic's in the fat suit.
oh yeah,
I'm fat.
Yeah. I'd go in the morning and check in, would see where the doll was, what was happening, and the guys would be resting and taking a break. And I would run down, and the 2 stages down at Laird Studios, they were shooting Fat.
And you did the fat suit.
Yeah, and I did the makeup, so I was bouncing back and forth for a couple of days. We shot that with Weird Al then. Now this sequence, they did many parts too. They went out in Chicago while we were there, and they did all the footage, the exterior footage of the car driving. And then this again was in Chicago. But once we get inside the car, we're back in Los Angeles. And all this stuff here was a poor man's process, where they use a projection from behind, Chris's head, side angles where they'd move the car around from whatever angle they needed to do. And then
my God.
The puppeteers were back behind, and this car was, you could take apart and put back together, take off sides to take down off the floor, the roof, or whatever you needed to do.
I think Chucky looks so cute in this sequence. His little eyes, his little face, his little mouth.
He's supposed to be terrifying.
I know, he's just so cute. That looks like a real hand.
That was a real hand. That was Chris's hand.
Oh,
This cut together really well, though, between the shots. Ed did a great job editing this sequence.
Ed who?
The editor. That's a frightening thing for a man, to take a blade right between the legs and come out unscathed. This is one of the more exciting things.
Chris said this was like the longest,
Yeah.
most difficult sequence for him, for sure.
I think took us believe it or not, a week and a half to 2 weeks I think,
Really?
to shoot it. Yeah, we had the puppet, we had an insert hands, we had Chris's stuff here doing all this stuff with the sparks. There was special effects going on.
Oh my God.
Certainly a lot of lighting. Poor Man's Process deals with revolving light. Then there was that shot where the camera had to spin around to simulate him spinning around with the background spinning. And then it came to rest and we had to continue. This is a fun little cat and mouse thing with Chucky. We used several different parts. Again, this is up off the floor, so the car is upside down for shots like that, so we could actually be underneath the floor. And we used that was a combination of Bunraku kind of style puppet, which was basically rods hooked on from the puppeteer's own feet to Chucky's feet, and then we used for waist up shots or knee from the knee up kind of shots. We shot from underneath the floor with the doll, and then I don't know if Ashley was used in that or not, Alex Vincent's sister again or not, but I think most of it was all puppet, if not all of it was puppet stuff. This was an insert hand that came in and grabbed the knife, and then we popped in with the puppet himself. And the funny thing is, you don't realize you have to kind of get everything into position, and you have to light that doll so his eyes will pop.
Yeah.
And you have to back it out slowly, hold position until you hear action. Until when your cue comes in, you have to hit that spot every time. Otherwise, he'll fall out of light or something, There was also a moment where they wanted Chucky to sort of get up and, before he ran away, to flip off Chris Sarandon, give him the bird. And they wanted it in a wide shot, so they decided to use Ed Gale. And they did the shot, actually, with Ed Gale in the suit jumping up and flipping off Chris, but it just didn't quite cut together well, so they pulled it out. This is our voodoo doctor, right?
It's so much fun when you make a movie to see the new sets, like you go to work and, oh, there's this, wow, you get to react to all this. Set decorators are unsung heroes.
And they're usually up the night before all night long trying to put this together. Dembala.
Karen.
I can't help to think about Chris Sarandon in the Fright Night. When I see him
I
coming
never
out of the
saw Fright
shadows.
Night.
Back to the station. Pull Ray's file. I learned the company.
The Tom Holland film.
And he spent a lot of time with this man.
Oh, I played a little affection there. If I linger and look at him. I remember deciding that Karen could not be falling in love with him, but just appreciating him. Very subtle. This is my favorite part of Chucky, when
Really?
he does that walk forward, that long monologue.
Over here.
Now here's the first time we ever used Ed Gale in the suit, and the 30% larger set.
Not there.
No, this is all Chucky, and he's reaching his final stages. So he's right here. That shot right there was Ed Gale, You can, to me, I can tell because it's a full body shot.
But look at his little upper lip.
Yeah.
Everything's so real, and his skin looks thin and real.
I remember there was one guy who had this control panel that did all the expressions on his face, like his eyebrows raising. And, I used to be able to mess with that stuff when I could. I don't think I ever did it in any of the scenes of the movie. I don't think they trusted me with that, but I was able to mess around with it, and I just thought Chucky was really cool.
Again, that's coordination, If one person's doing the eyes, he's doing the blinks and left to right and up and down. But he's got to coordinate that with the guy who's doing the brows and the cheeks and then the mouth, of course. The mouth is almost a separate element, but you do have to sneer and you have to make expressions that coordinate with everybody else.
How long did you rehearse this?
Well, we started 3 weeks, about 3 weeks. And that was just to get us doing walking coordination and moving hands together. We had a guy on the left hand and the right, left arm and right arm. And so to get them to clap or to bring their hands together was very difficult. In subsequent pictures to Child's Play, we ended up making a slave system so one guy could work the arms and so he could bring them in and out, and we moved into servos and stuff like that. But it was tough to get two different people to come together when they were holding things or bringing things up. Again, this is a combination. Ed was great because he could be used on all these little insert stuff when a hand had to,
break some.
Yeah, do something, more difficult than just wave or move around and have to grab a hold of something and snap the leg of that little doll. It was a perfect place where we could use like that.
Yeah.
Grabbing the knife out of Chucky's bib was difficult for the doll. He could do it, but it just took, it would maybe take an afternoon just to rehearse just for one shot. Well, it was easier just to bring in Ed. We didn't have to have a different size set because it was so close. And we just put the camera just on close-up of his bib, and he'd pull the knife out, and we'd get through the sequences a lot quicker.
I love his eyes because they're light blue, and they're just really... doesn't look like a doll to me at all. I mean, a fake doll. Looks like a person.
Again, the look of him was, made to look like Brad. So we took that doll and then slowly gave him Brad's eyebrows and coloring, a little bit more realistic coloring. We even talked about giving him a 5 o'clock shadow. The voodoo doll in that, just a side note, my brother is a sculptor. He does likenesses, and he sculpted the little head of
this man,
our
the actor.
voodoo doctor, for that sequence. So I get the whole family involved.
Hold it. Wait.
Well, I mean, you can buy the voodoo doll thing if you're going to buy everything else in this movie, so you could have a voodoo doll. This whole movie is based on voodoo. It's the only way that could have been possible. I don't think he's going to make it.
Let's get his soul into him like you got into doll.
What?
You must stop him before he can say the chant. Kill him before he can say it.
But how? How?
The heart. His heart is almost human. It's the only way through the heart.
I want to finish.
That was good.
That was good. I want to finish this sentence. Heart. He never got to it. Now this was interesting. We did some of this in Chicago. That's Ed Gale again in the Chucky suit. Because our doll was animatronic and had a jerky nature to it, it was actually great because it was forgiving. We had, we were able to move it, and if it wasn't perfect, it was okay because it was a doll. And it sort of took on a look after a while when we shot with it. It started looking a little jerky. So it was decided that when Ed was in the suit, that he needed to also move that way. And, instead of being by himself, we brought in a mime who came in and helped Ed move a little. He would hang out with us for a couple of days and kind of got the idea of how the doll moved, and then he taught it to make Ed move more like the doll and more robotic.
And this was a big scene for me, one that I was afraid to do for a while. I went over it with my acting coach over and over again. I'd like to hear someone else's story of it, because from my memory, I really just started crying. Seriously, I'm not sure what triggered it, and whether it was just the nerves of knowing that I had to do this scene. But I really did lose it, and I was crying. And when filming the scene, we actually ran out of tape, and I had to wait while they changed tape. And I was told that I said something like, "Oh, I'll keep crying, don't worry." And I cried for the whole 10, 15 minutes that they were filming that.
Here's a sequence here. Right here is Ed Gale walking across the floor. You can
Hey,
see
he's
Ed's.
good.
Yeah, and
Good pantomime.
We
Good
ran
jerk.
this about 18 frames, which is less than 24, the normal frame rate. We ran it at 18 just to give it a little bit more speed, and also to emphasize the jerking. That's also Ed in the background then in that shot there. So Ed practiced the moves, and then we shot it. And again, it was a 30% larger set in both cases, so it goes together pretty seamlessly. But yeah, back to Alex. I remember Tom was trying to get him to shout louder, and he left the set and went way on the other side of the stage. And "I can't hear you, Alex. I can't hear you." And he'd shout that out and to get Alex to scream. "I'm way back here, Alex. Scream louder," that kind of thing. And that particular shot, we had again a combination. It was our fully animatronic doll with legs on a boom arm that was mounted behind two glass cases, and the slot where he jumped down, was in between the cases. There was about a 6-inch gap, and that's where we dropped him down. So it's just on basically a teeter-totter, and we just had him fall down and lowered him down that way. And that was I think that's probably one of the few times you'll ever see in this movie Chucky in full body shot. And then as he rolls across the floor, we used Ed Gale again. And sometimes we had larger sets made, and sometimes we didn't. 30% larger sets for Ed. There's a shot coming up that was probably my least favorite in the movie, where we had to use Ed.
But actually, Ed, it sounds like we're talking about him a lot. It wasn't, not that many shots were.
No, but they're
with
just
Ed.
little bits and pieces that were needed to fill the gap. Most, 98% of it maybe, was our mechanical doll. Like here, that's our mechanical arm stabbing, our doctor or but this is Ed's feet running in and out.
Yeah.
And we had to use that because they needed to see that. Tom wanted to see the full body, again, the leg shot. And to get that we just didn't have that ability to move the doll in like that at that time. And then, so he'd had Ed come in. And the only problem was that Ed's feet were bigger than proportionately to him than the dolls were to the doll's body.
Right.
So they came off a little large, and that always bothered me when we made that film. That poor actor had to deal with all that.
How did they do the browning? Just cut away and add more makeup.
But they put blood drops in his eyes to give him that blood look.
This was a real insane asylum we shot in outside Chicago, I remember. It was creepy.
Was it empty or still in use?
I think it was abandoned, but it felt haunted. Or just sad. Very sad.
There was another scene here that was taken out. I'm not sure if it was at this part or before this, but apparently Andy developed some little relationship with this girl that was in here, and I think I had some dialogue with her, which is how she knew where I was. I don't have some memory of that.
I know the little girl said that Chucky was here and that he was looking for Andy.
Well, where would Andy go?
He'd go home. I always told him to go there if he was in trouble.
Does he have a key?
Under the mat.
Come on, we don't have this time.
I had to move that because I remember trying to pull this over and it got stuck time and time again on that carpet. This is everyone's favorite scene here.
Child left their doll in the elevator.
Leave it alone. Whoever left it there will come back looking for it.
Everyone loves this line. There was another scene cut out of this. I don't think we ever filmed it, but it was an original idea. When I go and hide in the closet. When I come in this room here and I look around, do a complete 360 and a 180 and run into the closet. A couple of the things that I find in here were going to be used to my advantage as a weapon against Chucky. And one of them was this remote control car, this red remote control car. And I don't remember if I was supposed to tie a knife to it or something, But I did something, and then I was going to wheel it on after Chucky, but they never did that. But there's the remote control car that was originally in the plan for that. So I assume maybe that was in the script all the way up until it was time to shoot, because we didn't end up using it. So just pick it up and kind of forget about it. And I grabbed this little foam bat instead. Well, it was really a foam bat. It wasn't supposed to be. That's Ed Gale.
Again is Ed. And see, I mean, we did the 30% larger head, and it had blinking capability, the one that Ed Gale wore. And it really works well in quick cuts. And this again is Ed Gale.
What a brave little boy.
I think they were all planned falls to try to get Chucky to come closer to me, so I didn't just take off, and he was, I was a lot faster than he was. So I had to fall a couple times for him to catch up, I guess.
We had
It's a little glidey. It looks like he's on a roll.
He was on a skateboard. No, we had, it's funny because that was, whenever you see Chucky running down the hall, waist up or knees up, he had a, Chucky had, we basically called it the Chucky train. It was Chucky at the very end. And then as you came back from there were, 5 or 6 puppeteers mounted to this train. And then the camera crew, actually it was Al Coulter was the puppeteer doing his body, so he was laying just underneath Chucky. And then there was the camera crew, and then behind the camera crew consisted of the camera, a focus puller riding on this Chucky train, and then behind the camera crew was all the puppeteers looking at monitors. And this thing would just go down the hallway at various speeds and things like that.
Amazing.
And that had to be sort of built. It was a doorway dolly that we mounted everything to, and it had to be built sort of on the spot. A lot of this stuff was storyboarded. We tried to figure it out, but again, this was the first time anyone had done a doll like this, and we were kind of, learning as we would go along. We couldn't figure everything else out. In meetings, we had to kind of get in there and sort of combine old techniques and new technology and kind of come up with
innovations.
Yeah, things on the spot.
I had a really hard time keeping my eyes closed, so they're like twitching like crazy, but it ended up working out because there was a spell being put under me, and I wasn't in a steady sleep or anything, so I ended up increasing it to full-on twitching. Yeah, I started squirming around, which made it seem like that was always the issue, instead of me just having a really hard time keeping my eyes closed for the scene. There's Ed Gale running up. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Chucky's face is so weird in that one little quick spot they show it there as he's running away. It's funny because Chris Sarandon, the cop, Mike Norris, is absolutely no help in this at all, in this scene. He gets cut, he gets knocked out, he's just laying there waiting for us to take care of everything. It's not until he finally shoots him at the end that he's of any assistance at all. And he's the big cop with a gun,
I got sick of this apartment. Everything, the whole shoot was in it once we got to L.A. I remember at one point we were going to do a big bunch of sequences on a roof.
On the roof, yeah.
But
that was the original
it.
ending, yeah. The whole thing was supposed to end on the roof. I remember I think we decided, it was Tom Holland wanted to move the whole thing to the roof just to break it up, because I think he was getting tired of doing scene after scene at the same location.
Why didn't they go to the roof?
It was really, I think it was
financial.
We were running out of time, and to build a roof and he just wanted a flat roof, and I remember it was a big production meeting right there in that living room set, where all the parties were chiming in on what it would cost and stuff, and we just found out we couldn't make it work. There's a couple of shots in here where you can actually see Al Coulter in the fireplace if you look carefully, dressed in black, where Chucky's flailing around. This is a rod puppet. Whatever we had to slam him around and really beat him up, we'd use, the backup dolls and the rod puppets and things like that, because we tried to protect he's got a screaming head on right now. We tried to protect the actual animatronic one from getting damaged. So we had to thrash around. That was the rod puppet with a screaming head on, a roar head or a screaming head.
And this was a great scene. This was, I remember Tom Holland really well in this scene because there was a certain way he wanted me to say this line. And we tried it a couple times, and then I finally got it just the way he wanted it.
This is the end, friend.
And I remember after that he picked me up and he was like, threw me up in the air. And was like, you did it. I remember that really well. Now that was actually Ed Gale on fire. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to be there for that. Because he was a friend and I didn't want to see him burn to death in some horrible Hollywood misfortune. So I wouldn't stay there for that. So those are just flames that I'm watching, but Ed wasn't on fire in front of my face.
Again, we're back to the rod puppet in there, but
no, a charcoal puppet.
And then a charcoal. Then we went through. Then we had a whole burn puppet just to deal with the different look. I had a whole nother head just for the burn.
Didn't you? Wasn't it your idea you wanted to have one eye open at the end in the charcoal head? Something about the eye.
Well, one untouched eye. There was I mean, believe he's got one eye burnt out.
You wanted that look.
Yeah, just had the one starey looking eye. But it was a separate head. Each stage, we didn't use the same doll because you never know when you're done shooting one sequence. You may have to go back and reshoot something from another scene or a pickup shot that you may have to go back and do. So we'd have to keep everything, preserve every look. So there was lots and lots of different doll parts, and one of them was this burned Chucky, which you'll see right here. In his glory.
Oh, God.
And we either used AB smoke on that, which is an ammonia-based smoke. It really stinks. But we also may have used just a tube and pumped him full of, stage smoke.
Oh.
An oil-based smoke. As I say, I actually wanted to have a burn look, so I ran a foam latex skin for the head, and then I physically burned it and took a torch to it. And it smelled like burnt rubber, but it was effective.
They did think that the burned Chucky would be too scary for me to see, though, and they tried to limit that. But I didn't think it was any scarier or anything.
There's the Jack Nicholson Shining moment.
That was looped. I hated that. I had to loop it. Ugh.
A great screaming face. That's that. When you open your mouth, your eyes go really wide. It's a great look.
And I really like this scene a lot. I always have it. It's just like, Katherine, the mother, protecting her son any way she can. And after she shoots him 5 times or whatever, and he goes down, she stays above him and she just keeps trying to shoot him. She can't shoot him enough times.
The original way this was written was that Chris Sarandon's character was to come in, to wake up basically, and come in with a bat, with Chucky's bat, and basically, knock his head off with the bat. So that shot was actually cut from that. I don't think you can see it. The bat goes through frame so quickly within fractions of a second that it knocks the head off. And then Tom decided to change the ending sequence and make it just you with the gun. And they kept the shot in, actually, and then we removed that head with the bat, but you never see it. You just couldn't kill this thing.
How was that thing still alive?
It seems like films in the 80s that the character, the creature, like, and the same thing goes in this film. It just wouldn't die. Terminator had the same kind of feeling. It just kept coming back and coming back and coming back for those last minute pop scares. But they haven't shot the heart out.
Yeah, I got a cop down here, multiple stab wounds, but the Brewster apartment.
And there he is again, hurt. Of no help to us, looking for us to help him.
The kid was right. The doll's alive. He almost got the three of us.
What is it that he's holding on his leg right now? What even happened to him again? I don't get it.
All right, well, go on. Check it out in the hall. They're scattered all over the place. But don't...
He got stabbed once on the lower side of his leg, and now his thigh hurts really bad. It must be like a pulled muscle. And he needs our help. That always makes people jump. I've seen it. I remember seeing people jump so many times when he pokes the doll's head.
Okay, Mike. I'd like you to take a look at this thing, okay? Because there's no way this thing's alive.
I like his dirty teeth.
Thought I told you not to touch it. Mike, will you...
Chucky is one slick killer. I mean, how he knew exactly where to go on the wall and knew that that was going to be effective, I don't know. But he got him. And he's got some grip. All right, Detective Norris, finally step up and help this family.
You got to give a lot of credit to Brad Dourif. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I just don't think that scenes like that would be as frightening without his screaming voice in the background. The guy's just got a rag doll. He's holding on to it at his neck. It's a dramatic shot. We'd put a Chucky doll on basically a bungee cord through the wall, and when we can give him the action cue, we pulled back, basically released this bungee cord, and it snapped him back to the wall. But then we cut in with the mechanical puppet.
This one last line of Chucky here. Everyone thinks that that's me at the end of it, but it's not. I always saw it as the voice box of the doll fading away.
When he goes back from Brad's voice back into the toy, as he fades out, they faded the sound, and it came back to the original Chucky voice, as if the Charles Ray's soul died, and that's a great moment.
And I think they all must have gotten locked up and committed after this. That's why we never hear from them again. And again, she goes to try to help Mike, leaves me in the room with this doll. Just to add a couple more memories to my scarred brain that will always have this in the back of my head.
Andy, come on.
And I really like the way that she pulls me out of the room and it freezes. Just one last image of Andy. And look back at what he had to go through with this crazy doll. Well, definitely, after making this movie, going to horror conventions and meeting fans and talking to people, and just basically my whole life, the number one question I've always been asked my entire life is, did you have nightmares from making this movie? And were you traumatized by making this movie? And I absolutely was not. I mean, there wasn't anything scary about it at all to me. I thought Chucky was awesome. I thought he was a cool doll. The way they got him to work, I thought was fantastic with the wires that came out from underneath him. And I knew the puppeteers that worked on the doll. And I always kind of wanted to mess with it myself and try to get him to move and stuff when we weren't filming. So I thought Chucky was just the coolest thing. They tried to limit my exposure to him when he was alive because I think they were afraid that it would have a negative effect on me and I'd be scared by it. But I know I wouldn't have been, because I really thought Chucky was just really cool. I mean, I completely understood how fake it was and where they were going with everything. So I was never scared at all making that movie. I mean, I think being in a movie at 6 years old, that could put some trauma on your life possibly, but not this movie in particular, being a horror film and being about a doll that tries to kill me. I never had any fear of that.
It's fun to watch again.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
It's funny. You're just going through this, you just feelings and memories come up. It was a good thing, ultimately, a great thing for my career, and met my beautiful wife.
And I got the head guy. No, and also you realize how much goes into these films. Just listening to you talk about it now, nobody knows how much goes into
the
it.
Detail. It was about a 3-month build, I think, to build everything. So, it was a lot of hard work, It was a great ride, though.
There will always be lasting memories in my life from this movie. It will always be a part of my life. I may have really walked away from show business when I was 13, and I don't know if I'll ever get back into it or if I'll ever have any other roles in my life, but my whole career as an actor, as a kid, is pretty much summed up through this film. I mean, it's pretty much the only thing anyone's seen me in, and it's the source of the questions that I've been asked my whole life, and it will continue to be. And I think the experience that I had making this movie, the second one, I was a little more comfortable because I had been there before, but the first one, I was a little bit closer with the people that I worked with, and it's something that I walked away really proud of the film for. And, I may have been called Chucky a lot through high school, and I may have gotten some attention from it that I never wanted in my life, but it was a really good opportunity for me to do something that will be remembered, like, in this world while I'm alive. And I think even if I never make another movie in my whole life, to be a part of this had a very profound effect on my life and will continue. And, just like the line from the movie, whether we've always gotten along or not, Chucky and I will always be friends to the end.